And I can only imagine, being in a war zone, especially in the West Bank, and now what's going to inevitably happen, as we have seen. Israel has broken the ceasefire. Could never have seen that coming, but it's, of course, only going to get worse. I don't think that there's any question that what Trump is going to do is what Jen has been saying for the longest time, is that we are inevitably going to be a failing empire, and he is merely going to accelerate the process. We've been hanging on for way too long, and any of the indication of what the DNC did over the weekend, this is just inevitable now. But the question becomes, is it politically attainable to continue with this genocide at this point? Do you think that there's any light at the end of the tunnel in light of the fact that there was a ceasefire? I don't expect us to do anything, but will the international community ultimately step up if Netanyahu continues down this treacherous warpath?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't think it's only going to get worse before it gets better. And I do think that what we're seeing in the West Bank, let's put it this way. We've seen for 15 months, the only thing Israel was able to accomplish was complete catastrophic deaths, mass murder, genocide, and they were unable to complete their military objectives. And that shows the strength and the resistance of the Palestinian people, that no matter what country, especially with the Arab countries, who are there historically have been there to support the people, and now they are trying to normalize relationships, which is another part of the problem. They're trying to normalize relationships with the
when
Western
people
Empire.
sell out their own, it's so doubly infuriating.
It's infuriating, but the Palestinian people are so strong, and so the resistance is still there. And so I do think that even with this, I think that's inevitable that we will see an annexation, unfortunately. It's moving towards that. I do think that at some point that the resistance will only get stronger and that they will fight back. Iran is still there. We don't know what's going to happen just yet. I mean, they've also went through a lot, and they've lost a lot over the last few months as well. So Hezbollah is still in play. You got the Houthis still in Yemen. These groups have not gone away, And
no, I think they reclaimed southern Lebanon. Like, just something happened just today, and I haven't had a chance to really dig in, but I'm pretty sure that southern Lebanon has been reclaimed.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it either, because we're past a 6-day ceasefire agreement between Hezbollah in Lebanon and Israel. And Hezbollah also, again, they haven't gone away either. I mean, they still are there, but I think right now it's giving them the time to recuperate before they do fire back, and I do see that happening in the foreseeable future. That's not changing. The government, even though Lebanon has a new president, I don't want to speak on the behalf of the people there, but I'm curious to see what will transpire in the coming months if Israel continues to encroach into Lebanese territory. And Syria is also the X factor here, right?
Yeah.
With Jolani as the new president, I think it's what we're seeing there is a complete destabilization of the region. And we've seen this in the past with Afghanistan and Iraq, that what the U.S. does, they'll intervene and they will leave it as a mess. They will leave it as a mess. And
Libya. This is what's going on in Syria is I think more like Libya, but it's such a classic example of the person that we used to say was the most wanted terrorist on the globe. And now that's the person that we're yes, we're going to just give him a new uniform and we're just going to put him in charge. Oh, and we'll rename his group. So now it's just a couple of initials, not that nasty Al-Qaeda sounding stuff, none of that. But it's absurd.
It is. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane what they're doing over there. And he also hasn't been the most I think he's still such an enigma to a lot of people. But he also just got rid of the Constitution. So what does that mean for the Syrian people going forward? We don't know. There's a lot of things that are still left uncertain.
I think what we can assume, and this is just based on my life experience, that whatever happens will be horrible for the Syrian people. Whatever group of like ridiculous, corrupt, militaristic, violent empire-like people end up doing in Syria or different sects thereof, I guarantee it will not be to the benefit of the Syrian people. That I can tell you. That I've yet to see that happen in my life where we've gone in and done something and it's helped the people in any way.
Yeah. we have, I mean, we've seen over the last, in my lifetime, I haven't seen it either. So, I mean, yeah, Peter, go ahead.
Shaniyat, obviously we're, Jen is, I'm not anymore. I have ventured into deep red America, and I actually like it here, to be honest.
I'd rather live in red America.
But you and Jen respectively live in two of the most Zionist-dominated parts of the country, New York City and South Florida. So what is it like? What is it like in Brooklyn these days? Obviously, it's people think it's all about Brooklyn. It's actually a lot of it's Long Island and Westchester counties that are really where a lot of the problem lies in terms of the overt wealth and complete commitment to the Zionist cause. But what would you say is sort of the temperature these days in terms of where people stand regarding Israel?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the day after the ceasefire, it was announced that the Zionist groups are still coming out in force and trying to repress any kind of protest rally. I was just at a rally the other day, not even a rally, it was a vigil for Hind Rajab, a 60-year-old girl who was shot times.
I will never get that little girl's voice out of my head for the rest of my life. So I know exactly who that is.
I don't think any of us could ever forget. And that's why we had that vigil there. And there was an anti-rally to the vigil for a 6-year-old girl. Can you believe that?
No, but yeah, because they're disgusting.
So they're there. They're still, and I think it's because I think these Zionist groups see that they were able to accomplish nothing, and that they feel like they have to come out and still harass people who just care about the well-being of freedom for Palestinians. So we're seeing that and also in Long Island, actually, Peter, to your point, there's a pizzeria out in Long Island. It's Turkish owned, but they're very pro-Palestinian in a very red district. And they've been having Zionist rallies up in the storefront. People have been leaving terrible reviews. Even their own customers that they've had for the last 15 years are now calling them terrorist supporters.
Brother, I got to tell you, there is this fucking peckerhead down here in South Florida that Jen knows what I'm talking about. I seriously I texted her the other day. I'm like, this fucking guy is in Miami. He goes to some event with.
He's such a Zio-Nazi.
Yeah, he went to an event that was spearheaded by Michael Rappaport and Barry Weiss, and it's like I messaged her. I said, I want to fucking give this guy a purple nurple so bad. I just want to whoop him and go, like they just basically tear off his
you were kind of looking for a reason to get into it with him at Angelo's swearing in.
Oh, I was like, if he looks at me the wrong way, I'm going to tell him, you want to step outside? Like, I was ready for it. Like, I'm sorry, but my Irish blood gets very, very okay? Especially when it's an injustice. That's why I'm so proud of Ireland. And
it's not just that he's an asshole.
No, I mean, he's a bitch and he's an asshole. So he's got both. But this is also one of those guys who really embodies the worst of our politics, because he's always the person who wants to mug it up with the elected officials. Hey, did you see who I was with at this event and that event and things like? He's one of those people. But he's also one of those people that wears that fucking dog tag around his neck. Release the hostages. Not that it matters that there's, 10, 20,000 Palestinian hostages, because that doesn't matter.
Can we talk about that for a second? Let's talk about the contrast in the condition of the hostages that are released from Gaza versus the hostages that are released from Israel. So, it's extreme. Like, you can see it. It is blatant. So in other words, Israel has been torturing and abusing and starving and raping and doing all sorts of horrible things. And the people that they're releasing look as much. And then you see these Israelis being released from Gaza, and their captors have been giving them a choice between meat or vegetarian, and they all look extremely healthy. And yet they're the ones that have been being protected in a war zone, being bombed by their own country. And why is nobody talking about the condition of these people? Am I the only one who is noticing this? Did you see it?
Alone. You are not alone. I think a lot of people are just oblivious to, they want to believe what they want to see, or at least don't want to see. And, just recently I've had a few friends of mine in the West Bank who were arrested for unjustifiable reasons. So it hasn't stopped. And we're seeing how, some of the things I want to work on in the future is how Arab Muslim men have been so dehumanized. I mean, we saw how Palestinian men were sexually assaulted.
Oh, I know.
Assaulted. That there was proof for that, and then we had the New York Times when genocide started with this fake news that women were raped and that there were 40 babies beheaded, but they completely will not see that truth. They continue to ignore that. And so when we see the conditions of the hostages, I mean, it tells you what kind of war, the attrition of war that these groups are abiding by. One group, the resistance, they clearly have a moral way of resisting, and hostages have been taken, but we've seen how they've been released in great condition, smiling. And then the hostages, the Palestinian hostages are coming back home, have lost so much weight, are in the worst physical conditions you could imagine. And even the trauma that they've endured. I mean, this is something that they all they know from birth is like resistance and being held captive by Israel under an apartheid and occupational state.
The only thing that I can even remotely hope happens for some of these hostages, that the Israeli hostages being released and going back home, that now they've seen the honor in the resistance and they've seen how they were treated. And I'm curious, the people that, I mean, we'll never know, because we'll never be able to get any information. Like, Israel's never going to let loose any information that would shine any positive light on Palestinians. But in terms of what it does to them in their own society, because all of those people that had that experience, that's got to be, I mean, that's a life-changing thing, regardless of whatever. And the fact that they were treated the way they were treated, I would think would sort of belie everything they were taught about those savage peoples, right? So I don't know. I mean, I can, that's the only thing I can think that comes out of the hostages, like, that are coming home in decent condition, that maybe that has some sort of impact on, like, some of those people's concepts. Because when I start hearing things about raping and beheaded babies, I'm like, to me, I automatically assume that that is not a Muslim person. That's not a Muslim person. That's not like, that's it. I mean, that is some sort of, whatever criminal crap that is that happens, but that's not their game. That's just not how, like, I know so much better because I know so many Muslim people. So like, I have met extremely very religious Muslim people. I've met some not so religious Muslim people, but I know that that's just, they're honorable. There's honor there. And Israel has no honor. They have no honor in anything.
And not only do they not have no honor, but there's also the factor of what the experience is like, running around with Jen to a bunch of different, communities when she ran against Wasserman Schultz. And there's no question that the Muslim community at the mosques were the most welcoming, non-judgmental, and frankly, the most pious out of any religion I have ever come across.
There's not that many secular Muslims is what I have found. Like, there are secular other people. It's kind of like, I don't know, you could probably talk about that more. Like, the people that I've met that are Muslim are very practicing. Whereas I meet so many Christians and Jews that are non-practicing.
But that's not what I was alluding to. What I was alluding to is the fact that when you walk into a mosque, everyone is equal, literally. Everyone is equal, no matter how high on the totem pole economically you may be or how low you may be. the entire rainbow of different color, obviously mostly brown, but I will tell you that it's everybody. Everybody is accepted. And it's very anti-Western in the sense that when you walk into a mosque, you have the imam, you have a clock, and that's about it. There's really not much to it. There's no
it's like Vegas. It's like Vegas. You don't really know. You don't really know what's going on outside. No, I'm just
you just go in there to hear, as we would say in the Western world, the gospel, but it's really just the teachings of Muhammad and Allah. And that's it. That's really it. And
I like it. I found it very cathartic.
Yeah, centering your life. And so I'm thinking, even if there was some radicalization, the reason why I think the Muslims take so much crap from Western culture is the fact that they don't fully embrace Western culture, meaning that the first thing on their mind all day, every day isn't how to make money. And in Western culture, particularly in synagogues and in churches, that is the opposite of what is taught. You see it when you walk into those other Western religious houses of worship, is they're trying to entice you. It is like being in a casino. It's like the complete opposite. And I do think there is something to be said for that. So kudos to the Muslim culture, which sticks to principle, even in light of everything that's going on right now, and for also being extremely welcoming. Whereas if it was you who wanted to be welcomed into a synagogue or a church, oh boy, it wouldn't have been so friendly.
No.
I'm just saying.